Picture this for a second. Your child comes home from school, drops their backpack on the floor, and just looks completely defeated. You ask what happened, and they tell you a classmate was making comments. Maybe it was about their voice, or their clothes, or a mistake they made in class. Everyone laughed. Actually, your child even laughed. But then they look up at you and say, "They were only joking, but I hated it." Man, it is just a completely heartbreaking moment. We've all been there, and as parents, our protective instincts literally kick into overdrive. We want to fix it right then and there. But masking that real pain behind a classmate's joke makes the whole situation incredibly confusing to navigate. So let's dive into this together. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to act as your supportive friend to help you navigate these really murky waters of peer teasing. We're drawing directly from the brilliant work of Dr. Ömer Çelikkol, who focuses on parenting science and peer bullying. Our goal today is to give you a clear roadmap so you can actually help your child without falling into those common traps of either overreacting and making things worse or minimizing their pain and leaving them feeling totally alone.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the just joking mistake and uncovering the hidden hurt.
The excuse of, "I was just joking," is incredibly confusing for kids, and frankly, it's pretty dangerous for us as parents to just take it at face value. As adults, we often evaluate teasing by looking solely at the intent. We ask, well, was it meant as a joke? And sure, that matters, but it's not enough. A child can completely intend to be funny but still use that humor to embarrass, control, or exclude someone else. Listen, intent does not erase impact. We have to completely shift our paradigm away from what the teaser meant to do and focus entirely on how that behavior actually impacted the targeted child.
And that brings us to a really crucial concept. Visible laughter cannot be treated as proof of consent. This is what we call the iceberg technique of laughter. You might see a video of the interaction, or your kid might admit they were laughing, and you think, well, hold on. If you laughed, how could it have hurt? But think about what's hiding under the surface of that iceberg. Kids often laugh outwardly just to survive the moment. They laugh because they're nervous, they're shocked, they're trying to fit in, or they're desperately attempting to prevent the whole group from escalating the teasing. Let's be real. Laughing because you're afraid of what happens if you don't is absolutely not freely enjoying an interaction.
So how do we know when it goes too far? That's Section 2, signs the line is crossed. We're moving from the gray area to clarity.
We are stepping out of confusing, everyday social interactions and looking at the actual scientific markers that tell us a boundary has definitely been crossed. To anchor our discussion, let's look at the official U.S. public health definition of bullying. Notice the key phrases here: a power imbalance and behavior that is repeated or highly likely to be repeated. Now, a single insensitive joke between two kids of equal social standing might be really hurtful, but it isn't automatically bullying. It still absolutely deserves your attention and a thoughtful response, for sure. But calling every uncomfortable joke bullying kind of strips kids of the chance to learn normal boundary setting and conflict resolution. What we really need to look for is a larger pattern.
So what exactly does that harmful pattern look like? Well, there are 5 clear signs. It usually starts when mutuality completely disappears. One kid is always the joke teller and the other is always the punchline. Often, it specifically targets a known vulnerability. But the biggest red flag? That's the social price tag. If your child says stop and the group rolls their eyes or calls them dramatic, healthy mutuality is dead. Add in a clear power imbalance, like an age gap or a difference in popularity, and a repeating pattern, and you're no longer dealing with a simple misjudged joke.
It's a lot to process, right? So let's break it down visually in Section 3, the 3 teasing zones, mapping out peer behavior. Think of these zones as a literal traffic light to help you slow down in the heat of the moment. The green zone is mutual and affectionate. Both kids can laugh, and if someone accidentally steps on a toe, it's super easy to stop and repair because the power is totally equal. Then we have the yellow zone, where things get a bit tricky. It's hurtful, maybe one-sided, but you don't quite know if there's a real power imbalance or a pattern yet. You definitely don't dismiss this, but you don't panic either. You just watch it closely. And then there's the red zone. This is degrading, unwanted, and aggressive. The power is completely imbalanced, and the child cannot safely make it stop. Using this matrix helps you match your response to the actual evidence rather than just instantly labeling a situation.
Which leads perfectly into Section 4, avoiding common parent mistakes and what not to do.
When our kids are hurting in those yellow or red zones, we instinctively want to react, but sometimes our well-meaning instincts are completely unhelpful. We tend to swing between 2 extremes. On one hand, we might be dismissive, telling our kid to just get a thicker skin, or saying, "Oh, friends tease each other all the time." On the flip side, we might completely overreact, instantly shouting, "I'm calling their parents right now," or marching over to force a public apology. Here's the thing. Both of these extremes actually do the exact same damage. They teach your child to stay silent in the future. If you dismiss them, they learn you won't recognize their harm. If you overreact, they learn that telling you just makes their social life 10 times more difficult and complicated. So instead of rapid-fire, courtroom-style interrogations or jumping to those extremes, try replacing your reaction with calm curiosity. Here are 6 questions to gently uncover the true power dynamics. Ask, what exactly was said or done? That gets you the facts. Who was there? That tells you about the audience. Has this happened before? Reveals the pattern. And I absolutely love this one. What happens when you ask them to stop? A safe relationship respects a boundary. A coercive one punishes it. These questions help you gather the facts without turning your living room into an interrogation room.
Okay, we've gathered the facts and stayed calm. Let's pivot from assessment to action. In Section 5, Practical Next Steps, Empowering Your Response. Let's walk through this action plan step by step. Start by regulating your own reaction and naming the behavior precisely. Instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, you're being bullied," try saying, "They repeated a comment about your body." From there, immediately assess for any safety risks or threats of harm. If things are safe, make sure to preserve information, like dates, exact phrases, or screenshots, but don't force your kid to keep looking at them. When you do contact the school, make a factual request rather than a wildly emotional one, and agree on exactly how they're going to follow up with you. Finally, and this is so vital, guys, continue an ordinary, calm connection at home. Keep things normal so your child's trauma doesn't end up defining their entire existence in your house.
If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer today, I want you to memorize this foundational phrase to use with your child. You do not have to prove that a joke hurt before I listen. I mean, just imagine how validating that is for a kid who's been masking their hidden discomfort all day. This one simple sentence reinforces a culture of safety, dignity, and active listening in your home. It tells them their internal experience is valid, regardless of whether they laughed or tried to play it cool in the moment.
We'll leave you with this final, profound thought to consider the next time you hear someone say, "It was just a joke." That phrase should never, ever end the conversation. Instead, it should prompt you to ask this lingering standard. Was everyone truly free to laugh, object, and still belong? Because if the answer is no, then the line has absolutely been crossed. And now you are fully equipped to step in and protect your child's well-being and social dignity. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.